the Soul's Conquest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul's Conquest in conversation with Michael Janda. This is a podcast that I've been meaning to do for quite a while. I have seen Michael's post for like 2 years now. I think you started with, like you were posting about burn your portfolio and you were talking about freelancers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
First time I came around your profile and I was like, how come people don't talk about this? And I'm so grateful that this guy's talking about this. And it was amazing. And I knew that at one point of time in my future, I had to have Michael on some form of an interview to have his story, out there in the world, which you probably have done multiple times across multiple platforms.
I love to share, though. I love to share it and help as many people as I can to get anything out there, because I didn't have any of these kinds of things when I was building my career. I didn't have podcasts and YouTube channels and things that could give me education and motivation. And so I love being part of providing both of those things for people now.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and let's just jump right into it. Can you tell us, for the people listening in the audience right now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Okay, so I guess, who am I? I'm married, father of three. Let's just start with family, because as much as we want to talk about business and things, what do we even do it for? I'm family centric and have a big extended family, and so that's, I think, a core piece of who I am, for sure. Now, on things like this, we talk about business. And so my business career started in 1996. It's been, how many years is that now? 26 years. Crazy. So yeah, that's a sad thing, and it dates me, but it started when I was, in the early .com era, where people were starting to build websites. And my last semester of my senior year of university, we had a little web design, web programming little module there. And I learned enough to be able to figure out how to build a website in the days when nobody really knew how to build websites. And that became this catalyst to a lot of growth in my career. 4 years later, I was a creative director at Fox Studios in LA, managing a team of designers and developers, running 2 of their digital departments.
Yeah.
Fox Kids and Fox Family. And so I saw a lot of growth and opportunity come out of, in some ways, graduating from university at the right time, but also taking advantages of the opportunities that came to me, and educating myself to be qualified for opportunities that came my way. Yeah. And then after that, just to continue on, in 2002, I started an agency. I started freelancing, and my freelance over a couple of years became so demanding that I started hiring people. And then that turned into my agency, Riser, that I ran for 13 years. And then I sold my agency in 2015. And then I worked at the agency I sold to for a couple of years. And then I started doing what I am doing now, which is mentoring, training, educating, motivating creative entrepreneurs, helping creatives who are good at design or good at their craft, helping them understand how to make it good for their business. How do you take your design skills, and turn it into a business that you can sell your services to clients and price those projects right and manage your clients through the process, and all the stuff that I didn't learn in school. And I try and teach that stuff to people now.
Oh, I love that. And, honestly, when you said that you started your career in 1996, I was like, not to date you, but like I was born in that year.
I know. That's the thing. It is.
Oh God, yeah.
So funny.
But I love that, you are so passionate about this. you are doing the thing that you love. And I wanted to ask you this: how did this start? What was the spark that made you go, ooh, design is the thing that I want to do? Like, was it just the last semester where you were doing the web development and stuff, or was it something that was there right from the very start?
It was there right from the start, early in my life. Like I grew up, my parents always encouraged their kids to be creative, we were always building Legos. We always had sketchbooks and pencils and things. My parents always fed us stuff like that. And kudos to them, because it was really great. And a couple of my brothers, I have 4 brothers, and most of my brothers are all creative people. We all have creativity in our soul. And I think it's because my parents did a good job of nurturing that. So I grew up as being the comic book person and reading comics, drawing comics, being creative, making little animations on Post-it notes where I draw a little cell by cell animation in the corner of a Post-it thing so you could flip through it. And anyway, those kinds of things, and taking art classes. And when I got to university, I thought, oh, I don't want to be a starving artist my whole life. So I'm going to study business. That's what I thought. And my grades were terrible, and I wasn't going to class, and I didn't like my classes. And I finally said, through the encouragement of my parents, you should just go into graphic design, or commercial art, as it was called back in the day. And I did. And that turned into my career. And I got great grades in the thing that I loved to do. And I thought I'd rather be a starving artist and happy with what I do for my career than be rich and miserable with what I do every day. Ooh. And it turned out that I was able to make a great living and do art or artistic things as well. So I'm fortunate that way.
No, I mean, it sounds so wonderful. But before I dive, I have a couple of questions from what you just said. But before we dive into that, I want to ask you, will we ever see one of your comics out there in the world for us to read and scroll through? Is it
it was me copying comics of other people. I loved Spider-Man and Daredevil and things back in the day. And so I would just draw pictures of their comics. I never wrote my own comics or anything like that. Okay. No, yeah.
But just kind of do something like that, because I feel like a lot of people are interested in seeing something in that area.
I know. I should, yeah, at some point.
Yeah. So another question is, Marvel or DC? Is that...
Oh, Marvel by a million times. I didn't even like DC back in the 80s when I was collecting comics.
Yeah.
Marvel all the way. Yeah, it's always been.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
But I'll take Batman. Batman, it redeems DC a bit. Batman's a great superhero in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Almost all the rest of the DC universe is inferior to the Marvel universe.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're so clear about that. Marvel it is.
Oh, very clear. It's very clear.
So I wanted to ask you this. You mentioned that, how you decided that you'd rather be a starving artist than be rich but unhappy. What made that mindset shift happen for you? Was it your own experience, or did you actually look into it further and, you were like, oh, is this the reality?
Yeah. My parents were good about that. They were always just, encouraging me to, with the mindset of do what you love, the money will follow, that mindset. And I believe that that's the case. We have to be passionate about what we do. And if we're passionate about it, then we're going to have the perseverance to overcome the challenges. We're going to have the drive to make us learn the things that we need to learn to succeed at it. We're going to have the stamina to spend long hours working on it to perfect our craft because we love it so much.
Yeah.
So you have to love it. Now, just loving it doesn't make you be rich doing it, but the love you have for the thing you choose to do gives you the drive, gives you the perseverance, gives you that determination to do what it's going to take to succeed doing that thing. And that's what will lead to the success. It's not just like decide to love it and then you will get rich. It's not that way, but decide to love it and you'll put in the time that it takes to make it be successful for you.
I love that. What would be your tips for someone who is in the struggling artist mindset outside of what you just said? What else would you suggest them to do to kind of like remain motivated, even if they are experiencing a few failures along the way?
Yeah, I think it's the comparison. The comparison is the problem. You compare where you are to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I'm so not good. I need to keep working at this because someday I'll be good like so-and-so. So comparison is usually for people done the wrong way. We compare where we are today to where we want to be someday in the future, and then we're dissatisfied. We feel like we've failed. We compare where we are today with where somebody else is right now on their path, and they're so much better than us. That's the thing that causes that lack of motivation or that feeling of failure along the way. But if we compare ourselves to where we were last week, last month, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 10 years ago, then we can see huge progress where we are in our journey. Take you as an example. Where were you 5 years ago compared to today? Have you made a big leap in your journey?
A very big leap, to be honest. I was doing
Very
hotel
big.
management, and I was the most introverted person ever. Like, I wouldn't talk to people. And once I started coaching and stuff, I was actually out there, and I was like, people are not just going to know that you exist just because you exist. You have to go out there and introduce yourself. And after a few jittery starts, now I just go up to people and be like, do you want to connect on Zoom? Like, it will be a 20-minute thing. We'll get to know each other. But I could never imagine myself doing this like a year ago, much less 5 years ago.
Yeah. So imagine that. So when you make your comparison, now, are there podcasts that are more successful than your podcast currently?
Definitely.
Tons. I mean, Joe Rogan has like 100 million people listen to his podcast every day or whatever that it comes out. And so it's there are podcasts that are way more successful. So don't compare your podcast today to your podcast of somebody else or your podcast in the future. Compare you today to the introverted person a year ago who was nervous to reach out to people. You didn't seem introverted or insecure to me. You reached out to me on Instagram, and you were persistent and kind and easy to schedule with. And so here we are. And so, that's the comparison. That's the right comparison, is comparing you to last year or 2 years ago.
I love that because, I often think that who I'm podcasting, like especially earlier on in my journey, I was like, I'm podcasting. I have no skills to interview people. And, I just started thinking, I have at least 1,000 listeners today than when I started out, and I didn't have like any listeners, but like I have improved, like my coaching skills have improved so much. I have grown so much in the journey, and it says something, right? I mean, that's what we are here for. And this is something that I actually mention a lot to a lot of people as well, that, document your journey. It might seem insignificant to you now, but if you look back, you're like, holy shit, I was there, now I'm here. Right?
Exactly. Document your journey. It's great advice. It's great advice.
Thank you.
Helps people see where they've come. Another thing that can be helpful for people is a gratitude journal, so that at the end of each day, you're writing down the good things that happened in that day, instead of going over the failures that you saw happen. What are the good things that have happened? That mindset helps. So document your journey. I mean, if you're going to document things, document it in some kind of a journal form anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well throw in 3 things every day that you're grateful for.
Yeah. And, I actually recommend doing this in the morning and at night. So like in the morning, if you do the gratitude, just give gratitude to the people you love. It shifts your perspective, right? And, it starts off with a positive day. And at the end of the day, you can have like a reflection period. And I feel like it's actually really good if you video document it, because then you can show people later on in the journey, like, yo, this is where I started. You can do it too. And I'm probably like a motivational person and an inspirational person too. With that kind of mindset, I go into it. But it's amazing. You can tell people this is where we started, and everyone starts there. So it's, if you stumble a couple of times, no one's gonna judge you for it, right? I was telling you, I used to throw my entire podcast out the window and restart it every time I made a mistake. It changed. It changed because I was like, I don't have 45 minutes to record every single podcast right from the scratch. Just for like a 5 or 10 minute podcast, I would record it till 20-30 minutes because it wasn't perfect enough.
My first few YouTube videos were that. I would record for 2 hours to get a 5-minute video for YouTube. I was just never satisfied. I didn't like how I said this. I had to restate it, and then I had to edit it. And now, I mean, a 10-minute YouTube video is 10 minutes of recording. And other than cutting out the time before I started talking and the time at the end, I can just leave the whole thing straight. So it's, you get more comfortable the more times you do it. And you realize that if the objective is communicating, then you don't need to cut out all the other stuff. And you can be authentic, and you can stumble over your words and recover, and it's just fine. It makes you feel more authentic and approachable. And the people who watch your content appreciate that. The normalness of it,
I feel like perfection is overrated. Everyone wants to be perfect, but there is no concept of perfectionism, right? Like what was perfect 2 minutes ago is no longer perfect, right? You could do so much more to it. So what are your thoughts on this? Because I feel like a lot of people who start out like you and me, we started out with the idea of creating the perfect content piece ever made in the history of content. So what are your thoughts on it?
So I think I was asked this question on a webinar a week ago or something, and I hadn't really thought about it, but my response, I feel like, is helpful to people. And perfectionism, we can look at a few different ways, and it's hard to get rid of it. I'm a perfectionist. It's hard to just say, okay, now I'm not going to be a perfectionist. So what you can do is you can channel your perfectionism a different way. And so right now, let's say you have a post you're going to put on Instagram. Oh, and I'm just going to keep redoing it because it's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. And so I'll just not post it today. I'll post it tomorrow, and I'll spend the afternoon working on it to make it perfect. Well, by doing that, you just became imperfect at posting consistently because you didn't post today. You skipped a day to make your perfect post. Now you have an imperfect sequence of posting. So if we just channel our perfectionism a little differently, we can say, you know what? This week, I'm going to be perfect in posting once a day, 5 posts this week. I'm going to be perfect in that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you let all your perfectionism desire channel into that goal, then you're going to have to let the perfect post go away in order to be perfect in the sequence. And sometimes we can take this perfectionism that we have and just channel it into something else that we're going to be perfect in. And then that's great. Take like a runner, for example. A runner, if you're trying to train to run the race of some kind, well, instead of tracking your time every day on how fast you ran it, check the box that you ran today, you trained today, and you trained tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and you trained 5 days in a row. Let's be perfect in that instead of trying to have the perfect time every time we run. So you could extrapolate this out into any different kinds of things about perfectionism. Choose something else to be perfect in instead of the visual quality of the post, to use the example that you gave.
I love that. I love that a lot. I feel like a lot of people would genuinely, it will help a lot of people shift their perspective around perfectionism. And I love that. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you started to mentor people. Right now you are in the phase where you are mentoring freelancers in their journey. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, why mentoring? Why did this come into existence?
I learned a few years into running my agency that the thing I loved the most was hiring a junior level person and then watching them blossom into being this senior level person. I loved that. And so I focused on that and found my passion in that. And when it came time to sell my agency and choose a new step for my career, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do the thing I love the most, but I'm going to do it for more than just the 15 people on my design team or my agency team. I'm going to do it for more people. And that's where it all came from. And so now I try and reach out and do it for as many people as I can find, and on a massive scale. So that's my passion. I just love it. I love it. It gets me up in the morning and it makes me happy. And I love when somebody gets big results. And I have a lot of people that I coach that message me and say, I just landed this project and my biggest project ever and stuff. And man, I just love to celebrate with those people and help them feel like there's somebody there cheering them on along the way. And I like being that person.
I love that. That is so wonderful. I feel like it takes a lot to actually grow, and especially when you're growing alone, but to have that sort of mentorship and coaching and guidance basically that enables you to be like, you got this is how we're gonna do it, don't worry, everything's gonna be all right. It's something that's extremely beneficial and much needed. I feel like a lot of people are like afraid to ask for help in terms of the fact that, we will be the lesser person, or what will the world think. Well, who cares about what the world thinks? Like, if you're successful, some people are gonna cheer you for it, some people are gonna be like, oh, how did you get successful? And then if you're not successful, it's the same kind of a story. Some people will cheer you on like, hey, you got this, and some people will be like, he's still not succeeded in life, whatever. So awesome. So I wanted to ask you this: what do you hope to achieve when you are you're just about to start coaching a new person or mentoring a new person? What do you hope to achieve at the end of it all, after the coaching period ends?
So I do it one session at a time, and I don't have like a coaching program that I take them through or anything like that. It is me being in the weeds of their business, helping them with the exact problems that they're facing right now. And for most of the people that I work with, I've been working with them for 2 years plus, and some of them schedule like every week, and some of them schedule once a month, and some of them schedule when they let all their problems build up for a time, and then they schedule a session, and then we work on those problems, and then they let them build up, and then we schedule. And anyway, so it varies from person to person. My greatest satisfaction comes when I see their business grow. I have 3 people that have hit 7-figure agencies, and it makes me so happy to have been part of that piece. And I don't take credit for that. There's so much work it takes to go into building a 7-figure agency, but I love being a piece of it. I love being the person who helped them hire their first few employees. I love being part of that journey, and it just gives me so much satisfaction. So for me, I think that's the greatest piece, is the feedback when I see them grow their business and have it become something that they could always have done it themselves, but they do it faster. They do it with less stress. They do it a little more profitably, that because I had some involvement, that just makes me happy every day. I love it. I love that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question which is going to sound weird, but it is, why do you love it? Like, why do you get that satisfaction from it all?
I believe, and most people who have provided service to others in life, that's some of the greatest joy that we have in our lives, comes from serving other people. That's where a lot of true happiness can be found, in the service of others. And I get to do that for a living right now, and so that's a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, how do you feel when when your closest friend is in tears because something bad happened, and you go over to their house and you help them through it, and you walk away, and what did you get for it? Well, you just got the feel good from having helped them through a time in need. You got the feel good, and it's one of the greatest payoffs you can have. I think this is why a lot of mothers and fathers too, but feel so, why parenting is such a rewarding thing. It's so hard, but it's so rewarding to see your child succeed and to have been part of that journey. It's the satisfaction and joy that you can't get very many other ways. So I think that's where it comes from. I look at Ukraine, look at the people, this Russia war in Ukraine, and all the Ukrainian refugees leaving, and all the stories of people crossing the border into Poland, and all the people who took them in and said, I have room for 2, I have room for 5, and they feed them, and they stay with them, and they're helping them. Man, the amount of joy and love that is being interchanged in that interaction between those people will bond them together forever. And so why do I love it? I mean, I'm not taking in refugees like that, but I'm just using that as an example of this abundance of joy and abundance of love, and this ability to connect with someone when we serve them. You can't find it very many other ways, if any other ways, in the world. So I think that's where it comes from. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah, I love that. And I can connect to the feeling that you're mentioning, because as a coach, that's something that, I find joy in as well. It's like, I have to be here and I'm being present for someone. And that's the change that, that's the thing that helps them kind of unleash themselves. That's crazy. Coaching aside, just my presence is being, just letting them know that they're not alone in this journey is so monumental, especially when things kind of get bad. Which is leading into the next question that I have. So you mentioned that you help the people that you're helping, like there's less stress, it's a faster timeline. But talking about stress, I want to ask you, how should new creatives basically manage their stress better? And this might be leading a bit into the burnout area, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it and how that stress could possibly lead to burnout.
Yeah, I didn't do well at this at the start. When I was building my agency, it was really stressful, and I used to say, oh, I lived at a stress level that would kill most other human beings. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. When I was hiring and scaling and taking on big projects, big responsibility with big dollars behind it, there was a lot of stress in that. And knowing what I know now, I could have handled it better. But I always felt such a responsibility and burden to the employees to provide a good company for them, burden to the clients to provide good work and good results for them. I just felt so much pressure for those kinds of things. the thing that kept me probably out of the hospital was exercise. I would get up every morning, and the first thing I do is go to the gym and work out. And that would bring my capacity, it would make my capacity to bear the stress bigger, because I was getting endorphins and getting the wiggles out by exercising. So that probably had a big benefit. I think for as far as advice to creatives living in this stressful career that we've chosen, make sure you're getting your exercise, make sure you're getting your sleep. Most of the time, the stuff that we're working on at 2 a.m. is going to take us an hour. If we wait on a good night's sleep to do that same thing, it could take us 10 minutes. But because we're tired, it takes us longer. We think we have to do it. But when we wake up in the morning refreshed and ready, it goes so much faster. And so I think that there's this idea of we have to spend the hours, the late hours. Instead, let's go to sleep and get up earlier to do that same thing.
Yeah.
I think that there's that as a piece of advice. Another piece of advice is to know that this stuff, at the end of the day, it's not nearly as stressful as what we tend to make it. I mean, you're making somebody's logo, and yeah, you want it to be good, and yeah, you want it to work well for their business, and you want it to be successful, and you want them to be happy with the results and stuff. But if they're not, it was the freaking little logo that we were designing. It's not like, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a logo. It was a little tiny picture that we were doing. And we don't need to make it seem like it's this life and death level stress, the way that a lot of creative entrepreneurs feel. Like, oh no, my client, they're unhappy. They didn't like the logo that I drew for them. Oh, my business is failing, and they just go down the spiral. It's not that. You're going to have some clients who they don't like it. So be it. It's a logo. And I think, I mean, I don't want to minimize what we do, but let's look at what we're really doing here. I mean, we're doing artistic work for people. We're not a heart surgeon. We're not cutting their skull open and operating on their brain. And if you do a bad job, they die. It isn't that. That's not what we're doing here. So I think that there's a piece of advice in there for creatives, is that let's look at it for the reality of what it is, and not escalate it up to this life or death level stress, that even if our clients escalate it to that, we got to have a reality check on what we're really doing here.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And you mentioned that you used to exercise. That's actually a really good tip, mostly because stress, the hormones that we get from stress usually ends up holding up inside our body.
Yeah.
And like when there is some sort of a trigger, we usually have all these hormones that's building up, but there's no way to get rid of it because our body's reacting in this fight or flight kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where, all that hormones are being used to be like, let's run or let's do something, but you're not doing anything. You're sitting stationary in front of a laptop trying to figure out if you should tilt the logo a bit, use a different font or something. I mean, again, like I've seen my brother stress out over it. So I know that it's not as stupid as that, but if you exercise, you let all of those hormones out. So that is actually really good tip. And even if you don't want to exercise, just dance like a crazy person.
Go for a walk. I mean, you don't want to exercise, fine. Go for a walk. Go take a walk around the block and get some fresh air and get some perspective back.
Yeah, I love that a lot. My next question to you is this, Michael. Like, what were some of the obstacles outside of what you mentioned earlier on that you faced in your journey?
I think my biggest obstacle for me was a fear of the future, fear of risk, the fear of not knowing. if I'm going to have any work after the next 3 months. Just that fear of not knowing. And I let that have an impact on me, a detrimental impact on me, especially early on in my agency. I let that fear of not knowing if I'm going to have more work keep me from hiring people when I should have hired people. I let the fear of the financial side of my business make me save way too much money before I started hiring people. I could have afforded it a year and a half before I hired my first employee. I could have afforded financially to hire somebody, and I needed the help, but I had the fear of loss. The fear of loss of money kept me from investing back into my business. So fear was a big detriment to me, and I guess I got over that a bit after I had money. Obviously, I mean, when you start to have money, it's like, oh, I'm not so worried about making ends meet tomorrow. So I got over some of that fear, but I also got over the fear realizing that 3 months ahead, none of us really know what's going to happen 3 months ahead. And I started living in this 3-month timeline, not 3-year timeline. I started living that way in my business, thinking, okay, well, I have enough projects for the next 3 months. Great. We'll see. I assume that the 3 months after that will take care of themselves and we'll get more projects that'll show up. Yeah. And they always did. They always did. But when I looked ahead 3 years and thought, oh my gosh, 3 years, and I have employees that cost me $100,000 a month, that's $1.2 million. In the next 3 years, I need to bill at least $3.6 million just to make my business break even. Oh no, it's so scary. It's so stressful, that fear of looking too far into the future when it's ridiculous. I don't have to worry about $3.6 million 3 years from now. I needed to worry about, do I have $300,000 worth of cash flow for the next 3 months? And if I did, then great. So don't look too far ahead in your business. But that was the detriment, I think, to me. One of my biggest obstacles for me mentally that I had to overcome was understanding that and being able to take risks in spite of the fear that I felt about the future.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually really good advice, especially since the pandemic came out of the blue.
Yeah.
Uprooted our life.
You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, you don't know. 3 months, that's the biggest window that really any of us get. Yeah, we don't get a bigger window than 3 months of knowing what's going to happen. Inflation has been going crazy worldwide, post-pandemic. What's going to happen 3 months? Are we going to have some downturn? The stock market's been struggling the last few days. Is it going to keep going downturn? And then does that mean that businesses are going to slow their spending and stuff and hold on to cash? Yep, that's what it means. And so how deep do we go? None of us know. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. So let's not worry so much about it. Let's tackle today for today's problems and not look too far ahead.
Yeah, I love that. Now, coming on to that, I wanted to ask you, what are some practices, since this is a spiritual podcast, what are some spiritual or self-care practices that you have that, help you balance your work as well as your personal life?
I like that. That's good. Self-care. So exercise, I mentioned, is one of them. Sleep, another one. Get your sleep. Prayer or meditation, those things go hand in hand and become a spiritually strengthening experience that you can have independent of whatever religious beliefs you have. Most religions have some kind of a prayer or meditation aspect to them. And it helps us find our center in our lives and think of the things that really matter and the things that we're grateful for and the things that we need. And I think that has something really important to it. Being outside, getting some outside, like, man, there's a lot of natural ways to recenter yourself, and just being out in sunshine and nature. My family, we're beach people. We love to go to the beach. We love to sit on the beach. We love to go to Hawaii or California, and we'll spend the whole day on the beach. We just sit there and we love it. And we love the sound of the waves and the feel of the sand and the warmth of the sun and the gentle breeze and the colors that you see, the blue of the water and the green of the palm trees and the tan of the sand and the blue of the sky and the white clouds. You go down the list, everything about it we love, and is spiritually centering, is emotionally centering. So many people that you see in the world, they, you know, the walk on the beach, is there any better way to find yourself than taking your shoes off and taking a walk down the beach? It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat it. So anyway, those are just some things that I think that come to mind relating to that question, that I think are valuable to everybody in the world.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, like I see a lot of your stories and I see you spending time with your family, going skiing and stuff. And it's so heartwarming and wholesome to watch you guys just go crazy and have fun. It's like, you don't have to be so stressed out about life. Like, you know, it just doesn't have to be about work, or it just doesn't have to be about personal stuff. It can be a mix of both, and that's okay.
I work a lot of hours. I do, because I love what I do. I love it. And but I do love those things. I love going skiing. I love, you know, being outside. We have our little puppy, and I love taking my dog on a walk, and I love sitting out in our backyard yesterday with my 10-year-old, and we have a fireplace in the backyard that we turned on, and I just loved this. It was coolish in the air, but the warm fire, I just love those kinds of moments. I think are just so good. And what are we here for? I mean, that's what we're not here just to slave away at life, at career. We need those moments of when life is really real, not just work.
Yeah, I love that. My next question is this. So this podcast is called The Soul's Conquest. And I wanted to ask you, what has been one of your previous Soul's Conquest, and what is shaping up to be your current Soul's Conquest?
My Soul's Conquest. That's interesting.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like the side quest that you go on, like in video games, you know, like you gather equipment and potions and stuff that helps you on the main.
I like that. Yeah. So my side quest. Are you looking for something specific, like a or, you know, here's, okay. So my quest right now is summed up in the word legacy. And, you know, I'm a middle-aged man, as they would say. So, and I'm at that point where I've done a lot of things. I've had a great career. I've got some books that I've written that are published, and I have my agency and the history and the work that we did there. And I've had this great career. Now I'm focused on that word legacy. Like, what am I leaving behind someday for my posterity? And when I make some of these videos and I post them to YouTube and stuff, and when I have hundreds and hundreds of coaching calls that are all sitting on a backup drive, that with people that someday my great grandkids might find that archive of stuff and be able to watch great grandpa Mike and the 800 hours or 1,000 hours of coaching calls, and they're going to get some insight to who I really was, and they're going to hear all kinds of stories about my life and stuff. And so I like that word legacy, and that's kind of my quest that I'm on now. And I look at a lot of the things that I do now as part of that thing. And I think it's healthy for everybody to look at their life now. So even you're 26 26, 27 years old, something like that,
I
right?
turned 26 this year. Yeah.
Yeah, 26. So it's good for you to look at it and say, who do I want to be in my future? And am I on the right path to become that person that I want to become? And I can say that there's probably a yes, that this podcast is an example of you starting much younger than I did at creating legacy and history of who you are and this little dent that you make in this world that you leave behind for the people who come after you. And I think, man, when you look at that, it's hard to beat that from a gift to humanity standpoint, that you make an effort to actually make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah. And we are living in this era where it's much more easy to document stuff. It's much more easy to live a print because it's there, it's out there, like as opposed to the early ages where people would write on papers and papers would get destroyed in fires, like the Library of Alexandria or something. Like it's not that you actually have the ability to leave a legacy behind. So what are you leaving behind? I love that. Like I am a Hamilton fan of the musical, and where you said legacy, I was like,
I love that. Hey, my wife calls me Hamilton. She's like, the song, why do you write like you're running out of time and stuff? She sings that when I'm like, because I'm like that. I'm like, oh, I gotta do this and I gotta do this and I gotta do this and I gotta do this. Yeah. That's
I know that you're a Hamilton fan too.
Yeah, she's she says that is my who I am in that piece. And I do. And then I one of my big challenges is taking my foot off the gas pedal. And I get up and I've got my list of things and I'm going to go and get my list done. And I got to get this done today and this done today and this done. I don't need any external motivation. I'm just internally motivated to do that stuff. And I would be better if and I'm trying to learn to be better to stop and smell the flowers once in a while. I need to find better balance at that.
I love that. I'm going to share a comic with you. Like I saw a comic strip. I'll share it with you on Instagram, but it's like, like the smelling the flowers thing. Like there are 3 types of people. One who don't smell the flowers, one who smell the flowers, and one who think that it's a competition to smell the flowers.
So that's me right there. It's a competition. If it was a competition, then I would smell all the flowers. If I got a point for every flower I smelled, then I would smell more flowers than anyone. Yeah, send that to me. That's funny.
I'll do that.
That's really funny.
My next question to you is this. What is something that has recently created a lot of impact in your life?
Created a lot of impact in your life. Okay, so music is my latest impactful thing. And I've started playing the guitar like 20 years ago. And when I was growing my agency, I was taking guitar lessons, playing guitar and stuff. But it was always acoustic guitar. And for my last birthday, I splurged on buying electric guitar and amp and pedals and things. And it's just reinvigorated my passion for something that I had let that passion go for 5 or 6 years, and I hadn't played much at all. And now that passion is back, and it's so my life feels so much more balanced.
Yeah.
Because I have re-embraced a hobby that I had at one point that brought more balance to my life. I have it back now, and so it's had a big impact and just brought me a lot of happiness every day and a lot of mental break from just thinking about work and what am I doing, career, legacy. Now I've got this hobby that brings me joy, and it brings me joy in a lot of different ways. Just the tactile experience of playing it, the auditory experience of hearing it, and the emotional expression of playing and having that sound come out of me in some way. So it's had a big impact on me lately.
I love that. I love that a lot. So My last question to you, Mike, is this. What is the one last thing that you would like to leave my listeners with?
Oh, one last thing. I've shared this one last thing a few times, and your life is long, your career is long. It's all a lot longer than what you think. You do not have to go mad every day trying to climb the ladder of success. You've got a lot more time. Most of us, and I have some family members, premature deaths and things, and that happens, and it's sad. But for most of us, we have much longer ahead than what we think. So don't be afraid to take a break once in a while. Don't feel bad that you took 6 months and didn't push yourself super hard. You don't have to. It's okay to coast a little once in a while and recatch your breath and recatch your energy for that future. So don't be afraid to take it a day at a time, and as long as it takes, you got plenty of time. I'm middle-aged, as they say, and I still feel I got plenty of time. I got like another 20 years of things I want to do. Like, I don't feel like I want to stop working. I could stop working, but I love what I do now more than I've loved any phase of my career so far. So I feel like I'm just getting started on this new phase that I finally love the most out of everything that I've done. So, and I've already had this whole big list of things that I've accomplished. So you got plenty of time. That's my lasting thought.
I love that. It's a journey and we are here to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey so far with us, Michael. It's so amazing to have you here and
thank you.
Learn more about the intricate details of your career. I'm really blessed to have this opportunity with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Super fun. Thank you.